Welcome to Operations and Supply Chain University. I'm Jerry Wright. This is lesson number 14, Pull Systems, part of your Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification course. All right, pull systems, traditionally manufacturing operated on a push system. In push systems, the manufacturer attempts to forecast or guess what the customer will buy using complex material requirements planning programs and calculation algorithms. At the plant level, a schedule is generated for the first process, and then work in process is created at the first process, and the subsequent processes try to keep up. WIP, or piles of work in process, build up between the processes as actual sales vary from the forecast. This is kind of what it looks like graphically. Marketing comes up with a guess, we start building, and then those little blue, like, pile things represent work in process on their way to the customer. That's not ideal, but that's how most companies deal with things. Now, in a pull system, this is different. So Taiichi Ono was at an American supermarket and noticed that the vendor was refilling drinks based on what had been sold or what was being requested. Then he realized that overproduction waste could be avoided by using a pull system, only refilling what the customer bought or consumed. So think of it in the automotive factory. I've used windshields, now I need more windshields to show up, or I've used seats or tires, I need more to show up. Everything is based on consumption. So the customer or the customer's process pulls parts from a controlled buffer inventory, think like a supermarket, while previous processes refill what has been pulled or consumed. So graphically, this is what it looks like. So I've got the customer saying, hey, I'll take something, and I pull it from my little shelves or my inventory. You can see they're in process 3. Well, then process 3 says, oh, I need something else from process 2, and takes some to build more to refill process 3. Well, when process 2 says, oh, they took some from process 3, let me go back and take some from process 1 so I can refill my supermarket. So basically, everything is pulling through the system based on something that has actually been purchased or consumed. Now, those dotted lines represent the planned usage, so we have to start with something. We have to look at history or make a guess of what our initial supermarket stocking or Kanban levels will be. Now let's look at an example that maybe is more simplistic or relevant. It's a hot summer day. We've got a picnic going on. You're responsible to provide drinks. And so you've set the system up on the table or the picnic table under the, shelter. And you've got Diet Coke, A&W root beer, Orange Crush, and Coca-Cola. You've put ice in the cups. You've pre-filled everything, pre-poured it. Well, what's wrong with this process? What problems could we expect to encounter in providing sodas for people at a picnic or some type of event? I think the common thing is they say, well, okay, the ice starts to melt, dilutes the soda. The carbonation starts to go away, so I lose that carbonation fizz. Bugs could land in it, could spill. There's no caps on anything. And then what if people want something that's running out? Like we use all the Coke, it's gone. And people say, well, you could have Diet Coke. I don't want Diet Coke. Now, the other thing one of the students pointed out to me in my training said, what's in the clear cups? Who knows? Is it water? Is it 7-Up? There's no bottle to indicate what it is, assuming those are correct. So this is definitely a challenge. Now, here's the other thing is, what if people don't take things you've pre-poured? They just sit there. We'll eventually have to throw them away. That's the problem with the push system, is we've got too many things pushed out, assuming people want them without really knowing. Now, they don't do this at restaurants. At restaurants, they do this. This is pull. This process is different. I take as much ice as I want or as little as I want, and then I get the drink I want, no problem. Now, think about this. When you're a McDonald's or you're a Wendy's or you're another self or fast food restaurant, you don't actually have to pay for this machine. It's provided for you by Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whomever's providing the machine. You just have to agree to buy the syrup, the maintenance, and have some kind of contracted price that you're going to pay. But the reality is the reason they always want you to have drinks at a fast food restaurant is they're like 95 or higher percent gross margin. Let's say you sell a drink for $1. The cup, the soda, the electricity, the ice, the water, even labor to work on this is probably less than 5 to 10 cents, which means you're making 90 cents in profit on this. And if you charge $2, that's even more, right? So again, that's why they have these systems, and that's why they don't care if you want to go refill your drink a whole bunch of times. It's very, very inexpensive for them. You paid for the drink, and now your refills again are pennies. They don't mean much. So again, this is pull, this is push. Big, big difference. So in push versus pull, it's kind of like let's make all we can just in case. It's production approximation. We're guessing at what consumption or usage will be. It's usually large lots, high inventories, there's waste, there's firefighting. It's just not a good way to go. Communication is poor. Now, in a pull system, we make what's needed when we need it based on demand. It's production precision. It's based on consumption. It's smaller lots typically. Inventories are lower, there's less waste reduction. Management is by sight, and it's better communication. So again, a pull system is a system of cascading production and delivery instructions from downstream to upstream activities in which nothing is produced by the upstream supplier until the downstream supplier or customer signals a need. So parts and raw materials are consumed or pulled or used as products are built, and replenishment is based on usage, not on guesses, not on forecasts. As demand goes up, the fixed size part bins, known as Kanbans, are consumed more frequently. And the advantage versus material requirements planning or pushing is that it does not rely on a forecast. There's no guess. And if demand decreases, those fixed size bins just sit there at a fixed size. You've limited your inventory, and they might be consumed more slowly. So push, again, demand is estimated or forecasted. Orders are launched sometimes weeks or months ahead of the delivery date. It's not predictable. It's got accuracy problems. It's pretty inflexible. There's lots of waiting and expediting. And usually inventory turns, or how many times your inventory turns over, are often less than 3 times a year. And in Polar Kanban, typically you have a cross-functional team which designs a plan that'll be able to accommodate today's demand. There's no guessing. We just build what we need to replenish from orders today or yesterday. It's more accurate, it's very predictable, it's flexible. There's typically very little waiting or expediting. Inventory turns are 12 or higher. Push, again, managed by schedule, hot sheets, material shortage meetings, expediters, air freight, expedited shipments. You've got high scrap costs, rework, high level quality meetings, quality decisions. Can we use it? Can we fix it? Often there are delays and it's complex. In a pull system, it's managed by Kanban or simple demand planning. Very easy to do. Low scrap costs, rework problems are resolved by the operators themselves, on-time shipments, and simple. That's really where you want to be. So pull is the response to the customer's rate of demand. And again, nothing is produced until the upstream supplier says, hey, I'm ready. You gave me a signal. I'll build it for you. And it's the downstream supplier that signals that need. One of the best ways to think about this is going back maybe 20 to 30 years. If you went to McDonald's, they had pre-made most of the sandwiches, quarter pounders, filet of fish, I guess hamburgers, cheeseburgers, other items. They're already made, waiting for you to pick them up. That's not a great choice. Now, I talked to several of my students who've worked at McDonald's. They said, yeah, that's how it was. And I said, well, what did you do with the food if it had been there too long? And I think it was like an hour or two, they had to throw it out. And I said, what do you couldn't donate it? No, I can't donate it. We had to throw it in the trash. Now, if you notice, if you go to McDonald's or you go to Burger King or you go to Taco Bell or any of those places, they don't have anything pre-made for you. They make everything on demand in one piece flow, and they do it really quickly. They've all switched from push to pull. So as Burger King said at one time, have it your way. We'll make it to your order. But everybody does that now because it's so much more efficient. We don't waste food. We don't waste labor. We don't waste packaging materials by making something just to throw it away if it doesn't get consumed. Now, when do you do work in a pull system? I know this is going to sound overly simplistic, but it's important. So you can see I've got raw materials on the left, process flow in the middle, finished goods on the right. Material flows in that direction of the big blue arrow. Information flows backwards. Now, do I have raw materials? No, don't have any raw materials. Do I need finished goods? Yes, well, but I can't build them. I don't have any raw materials. Okay. Do I have raw materials? Yes, I do. Do I need finished goods? Nope, don't have any orders. Okay, process is stopped. Do I have raw materials? No. Do I need finished goods? No. Process logically stopped. Do I have raw materials? Yes, I do. Do I need finished goods? Yes, then the process flows. This is the only time the process should flow is if I have raw materials and I have a signal and I need finished goods, then I'm going to build. That's the only time you do work. Now, here's the problem. I have people, we have raw materials, we don't have any orders, but let's hope something happens, and then we do this. We build work in process, or we build finished goods we don't need. This is a big problem. We don't want to do that. That is not pull, that's push. We got to stop that. Now, people always tell me when I talk about Kanban pull systems, they go, but wait a minute, isn't more inventory better? And it's like, well, we don't want to run out of parts to make our products, but inventory requires a large investment of cash by the company. It's labor, it's materials, it's overhead, electricity, everything. And if you think of your factory like a river with our work in process or inventory flowing like water and then being impeded by our problems that are represented by the weight, the rocks in the riverbed, here's a challenge. In a deep river, things underwater cannot be seen. The inventory hides a lot of problems. Only an expert is going to be able to find waste. But if I lower the water level, so I lower my inventory level, some of those problems are now obvious. Then anyone can find and attack waste. So again, our goal is to reduce the inventory level and then work on attacking the waste. Sometimes you have to raise the water level back up so your customer doesn't suffer. That's okay. And then eventually work on lowering the water level so that you're really getting to much more of a pull production environment. Want to learn more about pull production? Christoph Roser wrote a book with the foreword by John Shook. You can check that out and learn a lot more about pull-based production. That's it for this lesson. Thank you.